All right, your next question has something to do with the how to place or hold the thumb in holding up the violin. So that's actually a pretty complex question. It's basically the key idea, but it's kind of hard to grasp it at first and feel it, honestly. It's very hard to feel it. It's like after you do all these things, and it's not a very linear process. That's the problem for most of us. At the end of all that non-linear learning process, you kind of feel what people are talking about. But let me try to go through some of the different ways to hold the violin first to give you a more general understanding. So one way to if you have normal average hands, and that's a big range in itself too. Like there's small hands that are still going to fall within the average size, and larger hands that will still fall in the category of average. The recommended way of holding the of placing the thumb and all of that and supporting the violin is to put the thumb slightly under the neck, but not completely under. See, that would be completely under right here, right? Completely directly under, so that it's like 180 degrees, kind of a straight line through, this finger coming down, straight down through the fingerboard, and the finger and the thumb pushing straight up into, directly up against the finger. Not like that, a little bit on the side, so that you're kind of slightly relying on a little bit of friction, but also you're actually supporting the violin from below. Okay, it's a weird angle. Okay, and you're gonna feel like the pad of your thumb is actually supporting the violin from below, right? But then you're also relying a bit on the sticky friction between the neck and the thumb, and it's not purely just holding the neck from below. And the thumb should point towards the scroll. Okay, maybe we can angle this a little better. So the thumb should be pointing towards the scroll and slightly under. Okay, but not completely under. All right. So again, you're relying slightly on friction, and you are slightly under. And this gives you, your hand, the freedom right here. All right? Allowing your hand to come around the neck and the fingerboard in a round and curvy manner. Okay? This is very important, the freedom of the hand here, and having the hand fall from above. That's one way to express it, I suppose. And that's quite important. Now, excuse me one sec. I think I'm running low on battery, so I'm going to turn my phone a little bit. Give me one sec. Alright, let me get my charger. Okay. Ooh, maybe I'll look better at this angle. Okay. Maybe I'll look uglier, if that's possible. Wow. Yeah, I look worse. Nice. It is possible. Who knew? Okay. Wow. Okay. In any case, so the thumb, right? That I was demonstrating, right? Slightly under, slightly on the side. Okay, relying a bit on friction, but also supporting from below, giving the great freedom here, and pointing towards the scroll. Now, some people say that you should hold it a little in front of the first finger, like between the first finger and the second finger. But in the when Mr. Zhang teaches it, he teaches that you should be slightly behind the first finger. Okay. Now, the larger your hand is here, right here, okay? So this is a weird thing. You could have big hands and maybe you're proportionally small here, and it would be a different story. But the larger you are there, you could hold the violin deeper, like this. So literally let the violin sit right there, in the little valley, or whatever you want to call it, between the thumb and the rest of the hand. Okay, and this is a very stable way to hold the violin, because you are supporting it a little bit on the bottom, a little bit on both sides, and you're cradling the neck. Now this, obviously, if you have a small hand, this is a terrible way to hold the violin, because when you hold it like this, your hand, okay, your fingers, as you can see, let's say you have short hands, okay, and you're holding like this, your hand will be kind of clamping and kind of short, okay, is one way to put it, and unable to come from above the violin and drop the fingers, but kind of clamp on the fingerboard, hanging on for dear life from below the violin. It'll be very kind of short fingers. And this causes so many problems, because technically we should always be, the hand should always be like you're just falling from above onto the fingerboard, and this encourages your hand to clamp down on the fingerboard, and that's causes a lot of tension issues, speed and facility issues, and so on. So that's why if you have a smaller hand, this is a much better way of playing the violin, with your thumb like this. But if you have larger hands, you could play like this, larger here especially. My hand can handle both. I don't have large hands, but I don't have, like, weirdly enough, when I put it against other people, it's not that. I must have weird proportions or something, because I swear I don't have large hands, but I put it against other people's and it's actually not smaller. So maybe I'm just weird hands. So I'm able to use both holds for the violin, deeper and more under, and with the elbow forward more. Okay, so you get that nice round arch. So those are already two different ways. If you're double jointed and your thumb is long enough, you could hold the violin neck here, cradle it there in that, right, like this, okay, and play holding the violin with your thumb like this. Okay, that works, I think, better for double jointed people. But those are just three ways. I'm sure there are other variations, but I would even people with big hands do often play like with the first way of holding the violin, and I would probably recommend that the most. Gives you the most versatility and, in my opinion, best intonation with the least amount of effort. I do, however, try to practice a little bit with my hands, deep like this, because when you're holding it the other way, the first way that I recommended, it does rely on friction. So if you feel any lack of stability, that's just inevitable. And if you feel like if you might slip a little bit, you feel a little unstable, that is just inevitable, because how are you going to rely on friction between two relatively slippery things to be your very secure kind of way of holding the neck? It's just no way that's going to work. So see, think about it, even the neck, it's kind of smooth, it's kind of round, right? No matter how you hold it, unless you really clamp it or really do something, there's no way it's going to be 100% secure. That's why good violin technique is often, Mr. Rodin especially likes to call it good balance. It's like this balancing game between holding it here and holding it here. And you need a little bit of strength on either end, but balance is quite key in playing the violin with good technique. So I hope that answers your question in terms of where the thumb should be. In my opinion, as you practice Shradiek number 1, the first exercise in the book of violin technique, and something like twiddle or Kreutzer number 9. This issue of where your thumb should be starts to, and as you also practice like Kreutzer number 11, 12, and do more scales and arpeggios, those all put together start to actually help you really feel and figure out where your thumb should be and what shape your hand should be in. Because by doing those exercises, not just by knowing conceptually like where things should be, you know how like here's an example. You could maybe know that maybe you should not slouch too much, right? Maybe you know, and you'll be like, oh, this is the correct posture to do this, right? You drop your shoulders a little bit, and not be like too arrogant looking with your chest pumped forward, but like we should also not be slouching. There's a kind of a natural balance there, right? That we should try to attain. But knowing that as posture and also and actually lifting weights to kind of grow the muscles on the front and also in the back, the right amount, so that the balance, you can find the balance by, for example, let's say I'm like this, okay? So that means that I have short frontal pectoral muscles, right? Over time, it's just going to get shorter. My back muscles are going to get longer, and I'm going to have turtleneck. I could, be like, oh, I'm going to always stretch out. I'm going to always, do this. Or I could do that, and I could kind of work out my front pectoral muscles, and they'll grow. And as they grow, and I do more, let's say, workouts that not only make this thicker, but also lengthen these muscles. If I do those exercises, it will grow. And just by growing out, my posture will improve. You see how the workout itself can change the physique? So like finger exercises, if done correctly and if done intelligently, under the guidance of a good teacher, can help to do the exact same thing. They're kind of the workout that helps shape your hand in the right way. In my opinion, and I think this is backed by, well, not think, I know, like my little finger exercise and form packet is probably a little unique because I boil it down as much as I can, like several books, several etudes, several exercises into like a couple of sheets of paper. But like for example, thirds, wonderful for training the shape of the hand, right? Thirds, octaves, and something like Kreutzer number 9, 11, 12, and Schradiek. Combining those in the right way is going to be fantastic for shaping the hand. So just remember that as you try to figure out, this whole thumb kind of issue, that it's not just posture and figuring out what's right, but also knowing where to grow by doing what kind of exercises and workouts that is going to get you to your final answer. Okay. Hope that gives you a little bit of perspective on the issue, and okay, I'll look at your next question.